Welcome everyone. It's just gone so quickly, hasn't it? It just goes so quick. Have we had fun? Yeah. I'm currently deciding. There's about 5 different things I want to buy. I'm just deciding which ones do I go for. Anyway, welcome to today's panel. It's hard not to think about, when we're thinking about health optimization, about it's our physical health, our emotional health, spiritual, but movement and bodybuilding is a big part of that as well, because we know it's important to stay fit. So I'm moderating this panel today, really with a group of experts in the field that have some amazing insights and information. My name's Adam Parker, and at the end we're going to have really the most important part, the Q&A. Questions that you want to ask, and I think when you ask those questions we all learn, so definitely stick your hand up and ask those questions. Our panelists today are Chris Gethin, Dr. Dominik Nischwitz and Justin Maguire. Round of applause for our panelists. So I'd like to start off, just go around introducing yourselves to set the scene. So Chris, over to you.
Yeah, my name is Chris Gethin. I'm the co-founder of Caged Supplements and the Chris Gethin Gyms franchise and Chris Gethin Coaching. And my athletic background stemmed from motocross, and then I got injured during motocross, and I found bodybuilding through rehab, recovery. You know, I was alleviated a lot of the pain and the injuries that I was dealing with, so I become hooked on bodybuilding, and now I try to optimize my health with bodybuilding included.
So my name is Dr. Dominik Nischwitz, also known as Dr. Dome. I'm a specialist in biological dentistry and basically more like a health expert, but we start in the mouth. I'm also very fascinated by bodybuilding, and it was kind of my athletic background was skateboarding. I wanted to become a professional skater there. I wanted to just jump higher. That's how I got into fitness.
That's crazy with the skateboarding, by the way.
more than 20 years ago. And yeah, and then this basically led to all the knowledge. So nutrition, science, and whatever. And now we're here to optimize your health. And the thing is always, it's a clinic's name is DNA Health and Aesthetics, which means health comes first, aesthetics just follows. And yeah, I hope I can give you some insights for optimizing health and bodybuilding.
Justin.
Well, I'm Dominik's younger. Is it on?
No.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now it's on.
Okay. I'm Dominik's younger spirit brother, so we have a kindred love and passion for just looking good. I think you do as well, Chris. I think a little bit of vanity involved. Nothing wrong with a healthy vanity, healthy ego. I was a bodybuilder when I was younger, amateur bodybuilder. Enjoyed it. Came second at the Junior Universe, WPF, back in 2003. I think I won three national titles and 5 provincial titles back home. And through my evolution of bodybuilding, I was able to see both the dark side and the light side to it as well. Having a direct, intimate experience of using scrupulous amounts of steroids when I was younger, feeling the effect of doing so, and understanding the importance that if one is going to utilize hormones to be done appropriately and effectively and consciously with intellectual direction. And that's what I'd like to bring to the topic in the audience here. It's a controversial topic, but nonetheless I think it needs to be discussed and understood and realize that even hormones used properly can provide longevity. So can bodybuilding provide longevity, but it needs to be incorporated and instituted properly toward preventing cellular aging, in essence.
Fantastic. So I want to set the scene here. Why is it important to build muscle? Dom, we'll start with you.
It's so besides the vanity reason and aesthetics, no, it's actually a longevity tool. I believe that muscle is a storage for your amino acids and proteins, especially later in life. It is building your metabolism. It helps with basically everything, uptake of nutrients, insulin sensitivity, hormones, neurotransmitter. So it's kind of like a protection mechanism and anti-aging. So I tell everybody in the audience always, or my patients, build as much muscle as possible, even as females actually. Naturally, whatever. Yeah, because when you're older, it's hard to do. So it's, again, investing in your optimal health. Also building the same as teeth are storage for your minerals, like as the bones are. So the storage place, is that correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Chris, your thoughts?
Yeah, for sure. So, if you look at the blue zones, the places where they have a disproportionate amount of people that are centenarians, they study the people in Okinawa, and on average, when they've studied them, the elderly are standing and sitting at least 50 times a day from the floor. So that is an act of resistance training. It creates more bone density. You always hear about the elderly woman or the elderly guy, they slip over, they break a hip, and then they die like 2 months later.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it actually helps improve, the bone density. And they've shown studies as well with people at older ages, they have better grip strength and better squat strength. So I think it's very important for everybody, not just people who want to get big pecs and six-pack abs. Everybody should be doing some form of resistance training, and we know that if you do get injured, the best way to rehab from that is through some form of resistance exercise. And if you do injure one side, you can unilaterally train the other side to help that opposite side recover quicker. And we spoke about saunas earlier. There are studies out there that show that you can prevent muscle wastage at an older age when you use hot thermogenesis.
Oh, wow. I feel good. I've just recently got myself an infrared sauna, so that's good to know.
Perfect. You're not going to wither
Good
away.
investment.
I know, right? Justin, your thoughts on the importance of building muscle?
Well, muscle is the only real metabolic tissue that we really have in the body. In that, obviously helps regulate thermogenesis and just ensures that our basal metabolic rate creates biological processes to take place. So with that being said, I think it's important for metabolic reciprocity. In other words, the way in which we're able to have co-resonance take effect from hormones, from enzymes, from environmental stimulus, or the defense of environmental stimulus. Muscle plays a huge role. It gives you the opportunity to have a better state of overall psycho-neural immunity.
Yes, sure. So we're all in the health space. We're all here because we've got a passion for it, right? We're doing hacks and all these different things. What do we think could actually be an interference when we're looking to gain muscle? Because sometimes we're doing so many different hacks and doing, going from A to B. Something might actually be hindering our ability to build muscle. So what could those be? And actually, there might be things that we don't even realize. Chris, we'll start with you.
It's usually doing too much.
Okay.
A lot of the clients that I work with, a lot of them are very ambitious. They really want to build muscle, and obviously with the the inclusion of Instagram now, people want that quick fix. They look at some guy lifting 800 pounds like, I want to do that next week. So, and when they feel that they're not getting there quick enough, they're like, I'm going to train extra. I'm going to do more. I'm going to do more hours. So a lot of it is training too much, is overtraining. And a lot of people that are very ambitious or, people who want to become professional athletes, or even some that are professional, just usually do too much, especially when you look at the burden of stress that we have in our environment today. If you're living in a city and you have that background noise, even though you may not be conscious of it, that can raise your cortisol levels. And obviously the exposure to the lights, the EMF, everything that we're exposed to today does burden us to a certain degree. And that's why it's good to have these trackables that you can track it, your HRV, your sleep data, to ensure, okay, maybe I should back it up. I'm a shift worker, my HRV is tanked. Maybe tomorrow I should take that extra day off, and instead of doing 6 days a week, maybe I should bring it down to 5. And as opposed to 2 hours in the gym, I wonder why I'm looking the same as I was last year. Maybe you should bring it down to an hour.
Do you know what, for me, I have to give myself that permission, because I'm like, I want to get back in, but I know I need to not just rest and relax. And for me, it can be a mental challenge as well. But it's great that we do need to have downtime and take it easy.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, basically you can just take it from there. It's the concept of stress, chronic stress, overdoing it. And I'm no exception. He knows that I would be the guy who's like, okay, you do 100%, I do 150. Probably just would overwork it. It's just the high achiever type of scenario. But as you guys know, my profession is health starting in your mouth. And what might be holding you back, and you don't even realize it, is stuff that is in your mouth, triggering stress 24/7, raising your cortisol level. And if you have a high cortisol ongoingly, what happens is that it affects your sexual hormones. And all of you know, for massive gains, and being shredded, you need high testosterone and not high cortisol. So maybe if you do everything correct already, you have the perfect nutrition, perfect regimen, you rest enough. Again, like I said yesterday, but you still feel like shit and there are no gains. Maybe there are some splinters in your mouth, like root canals, the cavitations, the metals. that are interfering with your hormones and your nervous and your immune system 24/7, and you just cannot hack it away. So this is something that you all need to have in your mind after this weekend, that health starts in your mouth, also for training and bodybuilding.
Absolutely, I can attest to that as well. Definitely after our surveys, a couple of things have come up, and by changing a few things, performance came back into question. So Dom's 100% right. Health is definitely systematic, and we need to approach it with a holistic opportunity or viewpoint. I would say the biggest contributing factor to a compromised ability to be able to grow muscle is the emphasis of old methodologies or thought processes into blood, sweat, and tears, and not enough emphasis into how to maximize recovery. It's all about maximizing performance, but what about maximizing recovery? I think that's where a lot of the emphasis needs to be put into, and a lot of the money needs to be invested into, rather than focusing on how much more weight you can lift or how much more of a higher your heart rate you can get your variables to, and how much more energy you can burn. Focus on how well you're recovering, because that's where the anabolism occurs. Guys, just remember, when you train, it's an essence of controlled catabolism. So you're trying to create an environment for the body to respond, and in its response, grow muscle. So you need to nurture that, and you've got to encourage that, which means you have to direct it in the right direction.
Yes. I kind of think fitness and health, it's a lifelong journey. My body reacts completely differently in my late 30s to when it did in my 20s. I'm adapting, I'm evolving. It's a never-ending journey, I find. We're all here, we're into the biohacking space. I'm sure there are definitely biohacks that can help us leverage and build more muscle that we may not have heard of, we may have heard of. In your guys' opinion, what kind of traditional biohacks or new and innovative biohacks would you say, hey, have a look at this to help you build more muscle? Justin, we'll start with you.
Well, mine's very controversial.
Oh, I love this. Let's go.
Double the dose.
Double the dose.
If you think about contraction and biomechanics, it's all about force reception and the response to that force reception. In other words, if you want a muscle to grow, you want that muscle to contract. You don't want other muscles that are helping that muscle's contraction cycle to take over. Okay. Now, in order to ensure that, we need balanced hemispherical asymmetry to go on in the brain. In other words, the left and the right lobes of the brain to be able to interact with each other in an appropriate manner. By improving on tryptamine receptor activity, you're able to better modulate excessive dopamine toxicity, or the likelihood of dopamine toxicity, to the point where you regulate your dopamine drive to enable better proprioceptive control of your muscles. In other words, if you want to have better structural balance, that gives you the opportunity to contract your muscle in a more balanced fashion, enabling better muscle growth, facilitate tryptamine receptor activity. And my go-to for that is a little bit again, it's controversial, and it is illegal in this country, but not where I am, is the use of psilocybin in certain scenarios. For those who are here and you can't get a hold of that, look to ways in which you can modulate your serotonin production through augmenting hydroxytryptophan enzyme activity by ensuring that your vitamin D status is well balanced, and your mineral status, in addition to your vitamin D status, is well balanced to enable tryptophan to produce serotonin to engage those same receptors. But if you're in South Africa, hit me up and I'll help you out with some psilocybin.
It's
absolutely, yeah. And I'm a big advocate of, look, macrodosing is fantastic to be able to rewire the default mode network. Just to give an insight of what that is, trauma creates scarring, and particularly in the brain because of inflammation. Same as if you would have a scar tissue build up around a joint area or in a muscle, it creates a different piezoelectric response. And the same thing happens in the hippocampus. So by utilizing things such as LSD or psilocybin, amongst many other psychedelic aids, what it does, it creates momentary aspects of hypoxia to rewire that scarring so that the scar doesn't create a negative response back to the brain, and enabling the body to get over the trauma, or the brain to get over that sense of trauma, moving past it. But the microdosing has more of a peripheral effect because of its, particularly with psilocybin, because it has a phosphate donor. And in that, as it has a phosphate donor, it helps to neutralize any excessive free radicals, because it helps to balance out purine metabolism, which is a whole other subject. I'm not going to bore everybody with that one.
You've just created a new rabbit hole for me, Justin, to go down. So that'll be 2 hours.
Psychedelics for muscle growth is something that's not explored, and I can guarantee you, if people were to look more into it, you also realize for those who are struggling with weight, obesity, and diabetes, there are a lot of studies that are coming out in the association that psilocybin has in sensitizing leptin.
Wow. Okay. Interesting stuff. Dom.
Yeah, what was the question?
Oh, yeah. So,
sorry,
like,
mate.
what is
sorry,
it?
big bro.
But
all good, bro.
Any
kidding.
biohacks or hacks that you use in terms to gain muscle?
Just the basics.
Don't go there.
Just kidding. That's the Ronnie Coleman thing. For me, it's definitely all the basics. So it all starts with nutrition, in my opinion. So there is no special super hack when you don't cover the basics. Tim said it yesterday. The nutrition needs to be on point, thinking in nutrients. You can do it as a vegan, as a ketogenic guy, whatever. Just need to have the balance. And then obviously, I'm doing quite the same thing as him. Like, always look into neurotransmitters. That helped me as a kid when I was depressed with 21 and crashed. Took me 3 years to find that. That basically I'm a dopamine dominant person having a lack of it, just a depletion. Everybody should check out the Braverman assessment. If you have any sort of that, gives you a genetic makeup, and then in the second part it gives you the deficiencies. And when I figured that out, it took me exactly 1 week to go back to my normal, because I knew, I just need more tyrosine and I need a little bit of B6. So the biochemistry behind it and behind your things is always a critical go-to. That's why I use it for almost all patients, this neurotransmitter test, to see where they're at, because you can also implement nutritional strategies with it and get even better. And then for me, it's just atomic habits, just routines. Consistency is key, like I believe all of us do. Yeah, it's like compound effect of everything.
It's interesting to talk about the dopamine dominance, because everyone's individual. No one's the same, right?
No,
and that in itself is a unique area to look at.
Yeah, and usually the tests that doctors do is like looking in the poo if there's any neurotransmitters running around. But that makes no sense. I'm not interested in the poo here. I'm interested. It's almost all the neurotransmitters are produced in your gut, right? Yeah. And only 5% will reach your brain, and that's the way you act. And this specific test is just a questionnaire with true and false answers, and you just basically add them up, and you see in a B part, oh wow, my level is I have a number above 5, so I'm depressed because of it. And this is something I learned. If you're depressed, so mental health, depression is always a sign that your body is unhealthy, and the brain is just transferring it. It's neuroinflammation, and mostly starts in the gut, which starts in the mouth again. So this is how you have to look at it. It's totally different if it's the psychiatry route, but if it's just depression and these things, most likely your body is just out of balance. And this is also shown in the brain. So this is a good hack, and it's easy to do, besides all the other things, like peptides that I'm very much interested in.
Sure. Yeah. Chris, your thoughts?
Yeah, so just going to answer a little bit different to these guys here. So one of the biohacks, for instance, that I've used several times, especially when I'm traveling, going to a hotel room, we don't have, or hotel gym, I should say, where we don't have the amount of weight that we'd like. Sometimes I'll use like blood flow restriction training in those environments where we'll just do a circuit like we're going to do tomorrow morning of several exercises back to back. And using blood flow restriction can help with satellite cell signaling to increase muscle growth. I don't know to the extent that stretching the fascia would help so much, but that added blood flow to the area, especially, like I just had an injury last year to my tricep. So blood flow along with higher repetition training can really help with that. Along with that, I take certain supplements that do further help that blood flow with vasodilation, could be citrulline, something along those lines, about 10 grams of citrulline, and taking in a lot of essential amino acids during those workouts with extra leucine, just to give it a little bit more of that anabolic signaling as well. Okay. And further from that, it isn't, the BFR bands or Katsu bands are easily applicable, but what's kind of got a lot of traction over the past several years in the bodybuilding industry, especially for people getting into their 40s now, is like a DC current, using a DC current to contract there's a machine out there called NewFit. There's a few machines out there that can further help that contraction. So I've done that with blood flow restriction as well, and it's off the charts.
Oh wow, okay.
Anything that's sadistic, we'll try.
For sure.
So many rabbit holes. I'll be on Google all night tonight. Okay, so biohacking. There's standard stuff that we all know about, right? It's fasting, time-restricted eating, saunaing, all these different things, which is great from a biohacking longevity perspective, right? But I wonder how how those sorts of things blend in with muscle building. So is it good to fast whilst muscle building? Is it good to be hitting the saunas? I don't know. Like, I'm sure you guys will know. So I'm just those sorts of things. Even like keto, I mean that could be challenging because do you need a lot of carbohydrates to build muscle? So, but they're all seen as good things. But does it correlate to building muscle? So, yeah, I mean, fasting, intermittent fasting, all that sort of stuff. Does it align with muscle building, Justin?
Well, I think everything in context does. These are all tools. Yeah. So sometimes you need a hammer, sometimes you need a saw, sometimes you need a chainsaw, depending on the severity of what you're dealing with. And it comes down to understanding what your body's trying to tell you. So if your body is in a state of constant inflammation, if you're experiencing massive amounts of anxiety and your sleep is compromised, then cold therapy is a good one to go for. If you're experiencing chronic fatigue, you're just not able to get through the workout properly, or you're experiencing some issues with anaerobic aerobic respiration, then you want to maybe look into some infrared or photobiomodulation to help with that.
Yeah.
But what you don't want to do is implement all these biohacks without having a conscious idea of what needs to be modulated, right? Yeah. If you're in a state of extreme inflammation and you're putting yourself in an infrared sauna, I can guarantee you from personal experience and the experience I've done with a lot of clients, it's going to make things a lot worse, not going to make it better. No matter how many binders you take, you got to get the immune system to be calm before doing that. So having a systematic approach in applying all this can lead to successful outcomes in bodybuilding for sure, including fasting. It gives the pancreas a chance to regenerate itself. I mean, when I was bodybuilding, I ate between 8 and 10,000 calories a day for a good part of 3 years. When I was 138 kilos at my biggest. I mean, you can imagine the pressure that you're putting on your body.
Yeah.
So if I had known more about fasting, in my younger days, I don't know, I was a bit hot-headed. I don't think I would have listened to myself then. I may have saved myself a lot of gastrointestinal distress, which was a constant feature, let alone brain fog that came along with it as well.
And you get the increase in human growth hormone whilst you fast, which I'm sure has an onward effect in building muscle, I assume.
Absolutely. And again, any hormone, in fact, even when it comes to growth hormone, can have its benefits in the right state. But in the wrong state, if you're, for example, stuck in what they call a CDR2 state, which is when the body is hyperanabolic and you're trying to induce a growth hormone effect, can be really detrimental. So again, it's about putting things in context, understand where you are, and then do what you need to do. Don't just go about it willy-nilly.
Yes.
I kind of feel that's really also tapping into intuition, isn't it? Is this working? Sauna should relax me. I'm feeling really stressed out. Just listening to your body. Dom.
Yeah, I think it's like Justin said. I would always say it's about the timing of these tools and these things. I just go with my practice, and I know keto and intermittent fasting. That's all a trend, and I have tons of patients coming in with different mindsets to eating. But this is definitely one that people think it's healthy, and I almost always exclusively put them off fasting because it's the opposite of what I want to do. I want to build their health in teeth and bone, whatever in the surgery. So I put them in a regular feeding window. Maybe it's a 12-hour fast maximum. I don't think it's a good strategy because they had most of them had metals, root canals, cavitations, ongoing chronic stress, so they depleted their adrenals. And fasting will just do this. It will also upregulate adrenaline. That's why you feel so good. You're not hungry, a little bit more adrenaline, burn a little bit more fat. It's kind of drinking a lot of coffee, which you'll most likely do when you fast. So it's another external stressor. And I want to have only one stress, which is the surgery in itself, help the body heal, and then constantly feed it and basically make it anabolic and regrow or regenerate the adrenals, the hormones and everything back to normal, the whole gut system. And if that is all done, and I know it's all healed, I can see within 3 months if the implants, for example, are osseointegrated, then I know, oh wow, they build tissue. Then it's time to maybe put it to, use it for a certain time, kind of like keto. So I did keto 10 years ago already, or even longer ago. And I did it like extremely, and I had too much energy. I couldn't even sleep anymore. Of course, I was shredded and whatever, but didn't really feel good, and also it changed my whole insulin sensitivity, and I'm an adrenaline junkie anyway, so it would make me aggressive. So I need carbs and what he said, the tryptophan and the GABA and the serotonin, and this is what you need to learn, maybe experience on yourself. So just with the feedback, you need to know a lot to do a little, and then it's always very individual. That's what we always do. I individualize all the nutrition, everything right after surgery, because then I know. Yeah, sure. That's basics.
Just a further point. Sorry, Chris, do you mind if I...
Yeah, you go for it.
Just a further point. Individualized doesn't mean that you just follow the outcomes of one set of diagnostics in one space of time. Yeah. Individual means, yes, you do the diagnostics and the in-depth science stuff, but you also take into account the person's experience on a daily question. Right, and you map out that experience and see whether or not the trajectory is actually going toward the positive outcome of effort. Yeah. That is individualized. It's ongoing coaching, not cookie cutter, like, hey, there you go, see you in 2 months, everything will be fine. No, everybody's different. Everybody responds differently, and everything needs to be titerated as such, whatever it is that you do.
That's what you do anyways, right? You're like very on the clock with you.
Yeah, everything's going to be customized specifically to that person, but if everything is aligned, their stress hormones are down. You know, for instance, like speaking of stress hormones, like a lot of the gyms, especially in cities, you'll have basement gyms. We went into a gym the other day, very low ceilings, and they have a lot of harsh artificial blue light that is penetrating the retina while they're doing a bench press, you know. So they're raising their cortisol levels anyway, but they're getting a double dose. So a lot of the time, if I'm training in a gym that has low ceilings, a lot of harsh lights, I'm usually wearing my glasses just to help regulate that. But yeah, I will include fasting on non-training days with an athlete who has everything in line. They're not inflamed. They don't have high cortisol levels. Their HRV is good. So I'll include that. But it isn't like the traditional, like Dr. Sachin Panda approach to fasting, because some of those athletes really need to recover. They're trying to build muscle. So I'll put something that's very easy on their digestive system. That's usually essential amino acids. You know, I'm not going to go, you know, too high with the leucine then, where they're going to knock themselves out. But that's what I'll usually include just to help, you know, just prevent muscle wastage. But they are taking the stress off their digestive system because the day before they ate 6 or 7 meals, you know, and it just helps them regulate. And it's good for the brain as well, because some of these people are so structured, they get more stressed knowing that they're going to be 5 minutes over their meal time. So as I just chill out and I get them to understand it is very, very important, much like you get that mind-muscle connection when you're focused in the gym, that you are conscious when you're eating as well. So you slow down. There's a great book out there called The Slow Down Diet, where, you know, I ask my clients, you put your fork down between bites, you acknowledge you're not scrolling, you're not in conversation, you're not watching TV, whatever. You are appreciative of this meal to help you better digest it. And further from that, sometimes, you know, digestive enzymes could be needed, dependent on the BV of that protein.
Interesting. What I find interesting about the food comment is, I think we're all about being productive and go, and being efficient. And when I stop to eat, it's like I'm in 5th gear, and I've got to just get myself down to like 2nd. I have to, otherwise I'll just wolf the food down, and I won't even know, because I'm in like this high intensity productivity kind of gear. So I've got to calm myself, and then like, okay, calm now, slowly start to eat, you know. Yeah,
when you're in that sympathetic state, that's not rest or digest.
Exactly.
Yes, that's a good point. Always take your autonomic nervous system into account. So when I do surgeries, for example, I will not really eat in between, just something very light to digest, or maybe essential amino acids in between, and rather have the bigger foods in the morning and in the evening. And do the same. I'm the wolf down type of person, of course, but I had to learn, and we pray before and whatever, just to relax. And as you know, it again starts in the mouth. When you prepare the food, actually the eating starts, because then you already take your time, you know, your saliva production. And saliva is enzymes, right? They will produce it, and everything slows down. Probably the leptin and all these hormones come in, and then you sit down and eat. And then what the grandma said already, like everybody should be 30 times or something like that.
Yeah, well, we think of digestion here, but the first pass of digestion actually is in the mouth.
It's the saliva, and if you like in stress, there is no digestion. You basically run away from the saber-tooth tiger. You shouldn't eat right now.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not working.
So we're going to hand it over to you guys. Q&A. I'm sure there's many questions. People are thinking, okay, I may have certain challenges with building muscle. So does anyone have any questions to kick off? We do. Gentleman here.
I just want to ask about peptides. I've heard a bit, Ben Greenfield spoke about them yesterday, and it's a new
Well, if it's for like testosterone, you're going to be looking at there's 3 probably peptides that you'd be looking at. But what's your specific goal with the peptide?
I've just turned 40 and I'm looking to kind of build muscle and maintain muscle. Okay, so and just to continue building new muscle.
Okay, all right. So there's 3 peptides that I'm thinking of. I don't know what you'd think of, but gonadotropin, is that
releasing hormone?
Yeah, that's it. There's ipamorelin, and there's some ceremomerolin. God, I can never pronounce it. Yeah, that's it. So those are the 3 that I know that will help optimize testosterone levels from a peptide standpoint.
I think the combination. You must remember when you're looking to improve on the androgen index and obviously the body's ability to be able to utilize cholesterol in the conversion toward androgens, you have to look upstream, not just toward a direct system of FSH, LH, and then obviously the outcome of testosterone production. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is when you start to facilitate growth hormone releasing hormone receptors, and not through the use of growth hormone, but rather growth hormone releasing hormone peptides like ipamorelin as well as tesamorelin, it creates a knock-on effect downstream, which actually helps to regulate the pituitary's function with the Leydig cells or the Sertoli cells producing testosterone or sperm in men. So it's very important to look first to augmenting your GHRH and your GHRP peptide use. But before using any GHRP or GHRH, it's vitally important that if you have any inflammatory markers present or immunological compromise present, such as, and one way to know that is poor sleeping habits is a definite, poor appetite regulation is another one, poor recovery from training, you do not want to utilize performance-enhancing peptides straight off the bat. You want to utilize immunological regulating peptides such as thymosin alpha-1, thymosin beta-4, human ezerin peptides, just to name but a few, to get your immune system to the point that when you do choose to improve performance and increase testosterone production, it's done in an environment that's going to receive it well.
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
Do you know what your testosterone levels are currently?
No, I don't.
That'd probably be the first.
And also, again, the basics.
Yeah, the basics. Yeah, vitamin D.
Don't do peptides without having a solid nutritional foundation, having the nutrients in check, have your mouth clean, everything. That's just, like Tim said yesterday, it's all on top. And then get somebody who already is experienced with it. Can you give you the dosages? It's always good. Like Justin is definitely a master when it comes to peptides, so he will tell me exactly what to do. I experienced a lot of them ever since the last 4 years. I'm very much interested in this. Flew to US to learn from Conover back then. But this is really a thing, and Chris has a nice podcast interview. Just it's a recent one, right, with Jay Campbell, where he promotes it's a peptide course. So it's details, and also these bioregular peptides that Ben mentioned yesterday. This is something I experienced a lot, and they are all from Russia, and those are not injectables mostly. Those are oral uptake, and I took them extensively for the liver and for my organs. I can just say they are extremely good, and you can incorporate them very, very early already because they really help getting health first. It's not performance enhancing. It's more like rebuilding your body, kind of.
It's just amino acid sequencing. Yeah.
Basically, yes.
Any other questions? There were some hands going up earlier. Yes.
They have a nice
Hi.
there.
Do you absolutely have to be in a calorie surplus to build muscle, or is it just about eating a lot of protein?
Take
Go
it.
for it, brother.
Here we go, if it fits your macros, right? Firstly, the human body is not an economy. In other words, we do not work on economical principles of in and out. Food is biochemicals that create a regulatory outcome to physiological processes in the body. So that being said, you can have food with a very low caloric density, but a very high biochemical impact or ability to, or opportunity of co-resonance to take positive effect to create massive amounts of anabolism, and that's very probable. So again, this goes back to the old paradigm where we used to focus on, more is better, or blood, sweat, and tears. And it's just erroneous. It is because although you may, the big mass era, make a giant era, you can give a lot of size, a lot of gains, but is it sustainable? And what happens 10 years later? What happens to the density of the bone structures 10 years later? What happens to the immune system 10 years later? I've had a lot of friends in the bodybuilding circles that went along that paradigm, consuming excessive amount of calories, putting their bodies through a huge amount of stress. And I've lost 3 of them, 2 of them to kidney failure, and another one to a heart attack. And they're my age, I'm 36. So you gotta ask yourself, when you want to build muscle, you wanna go into bodybuilding, what are you doing it for? Are you doing it to become a fresher bodybuilder? And that's fine. If you wanna do that, go ahead, but rather approach it the same way in which Dexter Jackson did, which I met multiple times during my career. And if you ever have a chance to speak to the legend, you'll have an understanding that less is very much so more. And it's just about being calculated and understanding how to do that.
Who was it, Dexter Jackson? Oh, nice.
Yeah.
He did it for a long time.
Well, he's my opinion, the best.
Yeah, I would say it's what you said is think in nutrients instead of calories. That's also what I teach. Like, what is your body really getting from the nutrients? And this is also, again, very individual. You can take into account your blood type. You can see your digestion, all these things. Yeah. And then sometimes if you calculate calories, sometimes I think I eat very, very little calories, but it's such a big amount of food still, and tons of nutrients that that will really help then. And I've been everywhere. Like I also eat the first thing I did was read a Flex magazine, and there was eat 3,000 calories, and I didn't even know what a calorie was 20 years ago, and just looked at the package of noodles, and noodles have a lot of calories, so we'll just eat that. And I'm very, let's say, bland guy, so I just ate noodles and tuna fish for 1 year straight, gained 20 kilograms. Not all healthy, probably, but it worked. So the quality, it's more about do you want to have quality or quantity? And I believe you can have that by less calories, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I was going to say, like, the gentleman you mentioned, you're 40 years old. I was probably at my largest physically when I was about 43. So there's no reason why you can't pack on muscle then. But what I noticed, you're talking about food, like I was just eating any type of healthy food, macronutrients. I never counted calories, I just counted my macros. I noticed as soon as I went to more humane raised, organic, wild caught, I'm not getting all the pro-inflammatory or the omega-6s as much. I'm getting more nutrient-based food that is more natural to our gut environment. I was able to get away with much less, eating much less food, but in an environment I was able to grow much more because now I'm looking at the sources of the food. And again, mentioning before, focusing on recovery. I was training 6 days a week. I brought it down to 4 or 5 and put on more muscle with less calories.
Yes, that's one thing I have to add to this. Because that's also something I realized over the years is that's in the food design concept. If don't lose health first. That's why I always say skip the core 4. No gluten, no dairy, no conventional dairy, not the raw A2, no sugar, no refined vegetable oils. And also, you have to take into account the digestion and the immune response, what you just said, costs you calories and energy. What about you get your food without needing too much calories to burn it in the first place and digest it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I just want to blow your mind a bit as well in terms of understanding of human biophysics, let alone biochemistry and physiology. The energy in a cell, okay, if we were to take away our Newtonian ideas behind matter, and about, like, for example, a container being able to hold a certain volume of water. Take that away for a second. In the aspect of quantum, a human cell has 10,000 times more photon energy than the sun, one human cell. Think about that for a moment. So if you reckon, if you want to augment and shift your body toward building more muscle, ask yourself, is it not more important to focus on the management of how energy is directed and produced and also detoxified, rather than just the excessive consumption of the energy, considering the density of what one sort of your cells has in energy? Just food for thought.
Yes.
Well, I think that's it for time. I want to thank our guests or panelists for being on the stage today. Chris, Dom, and Justin, thank you very much. And thank you guys.
That's it.